My name is Jess and welcome to the Storyteller Fox. Come along and listen to read aloud books, be it for bedtime, story time, or simply to read along.
Today's story is about the Inch Prince. It's a fairy tale, a very old fairy tale which comes from Japan. So it's based on an old Japanese fairy tale called The One-Inch Boy. The Inch Prince, retold by Russell Punter, illustrated by Matt Ward. Read aloud by the Storyteller Fox. The Inch Prince. Once upon a time, there was a little man and a little old woman. Their names were Mr. and Mrs. Ping. They lived in a tiny house by the river. Every day, they weeded the plants in their vegetable plot. "The beans look beautiful," said the husband. "The hens look happy," said the wife. Fed the animals in their field and watered the flowers in their garden. They had everything they wanted. Well, almost. "I wish we had some children," said Mrs. Ping one evening. "Only a teeny child could fit in our tiny house," said Mr. Pig sadly. "But small things can be special too," said his wife. "I wouldn't care if they were just 1 inch tall," she added. At that moment, a fairy flew by. She heard what Mr. and Mrs. Pig said. She noticed their lovely vegetables, happy animals, and tall flowers. "These people are kind," thought the fairy. "I'll be kind to them." She waved her wand and whispered some magic words. "Jumping beans and flying fish, give these folks their dearest wish." Soon afterwards, Mr. and Mrs. Ping had a teeny-weeny boy. In fact, he was just 1 inch tall. "Let's call him Izun Boshi," said Mrs. Ping. "It means 1 inch boy." "Or Izzy for short," said her husband. Very short." Each year, the pigs' vegetables grew better, their animals grew bigger, and their flowers grew taller. But Izzy stayed small. "Maybe if I stand on tiptoe," thought Izzy. His height stayed the same all these years, as you can see on the chart. He is not more than 3 centimeters tall. Izzy was tiny. He had a bottle top for a bathtub. He had a shoelace for a scarf. He had a pea for a ball. He had a button for a dinner plate. And he had a matchbox for a bed. Many years later, it was time for Izzy to leave home. His parents gave him 3 presents for his journey. He had a rice bowl for a boat. He had a pair of chopsticks for oars, and he had a needle for a sword. Izzy set off down the river, between tall mountains, past villages, around wide woods, and through towns, until he reached the big city. "I'll ask the Emperor for a job," thought Izzy. "That's if I don't get squashed first." At last, Izzy reached the Emperor's palace. 2 guards were marching up and down outside. "I'd like a job," said Izzy. "You're teeny," said one guard. "What can you do?" "I can run past you for a start," said Izzy. He jumped over the guard's foot and ran into the palace. A maid was washing clothes. "I'd like a job," said Izzy. "You're a weenie," said the maid. "What can you do?" "I can run past you for a start," Izzy said. He jumped over the maid's soap and into the kitchen. A cook was making dinner. "I'd like a job," said Izzy. "You're tiny," said the cook. "What can you do?" "I can run past you for a start," Izzy said. He ran around the cook's oven and into the next room. Izzy was in the throne room. He bowed to the Emperor and the Princess. "I'd like a job, please, your Majesty," said Izzy. "Would you indeed?" said the Emperor. "He's teeny weeny, Daddy," said Princess Chichi. "What can he do?" "Well, I ran past your guard, your maid, and your cook to get here," said Izzy. The Emperor thought for a moment. "You can look after Princess Chichi," he said. "But Daddy," moaned the princess, "he's only 1 inch tall." "Small things can be special too," said the Emperor. From then on, Izzy never left the princess's side. He was there in the morning, he was there in the afternoon, he was there at night. One day, the princess left the palace to visit her aunt. Izzy went too. They came to a dark forest. "I'm scared," said Princess Chichi. "I'll look after you," said Izzy. "What can you do?" said the princess. Just then there was a terrifying roar. Roar! "Help!" cried the princess. A giant owl crashed through the trees. He reached out to grab Princess. "Put her down," said Izzy, "or I'll—" "You?" said the orc. "What could you do?" The orc scooped up Izzy and popped him in his mouth. Izzy thought quickly. He took his needle sword and pricked the orc's tongue. "Take that," said Izzy. "Ow!" screeched the orc. The orc spat out Izzy and ran off. That would teach him. "Thank you, Izzy," said the princess. "Look," said Izzy, "the orc left his hammer behind." The princess tried to pick it up, but it was too heavy. "Phew, it's heavier than it looks. I wish you were bigger, Izzy," she said. "Then maybe you could lift it." A cloud of magical stars shot out of the hammer and swept around Izzy. Izzy felt himself changing. He grew bigger and bigger and bigger. In seconds, he was as big as the princess. "I'm as tall as you," said Izzy. "The hammer granted your wish." The princess fell in love with Izzy, but not because he was tall. She loved him because he was brave. They got married and lived in a house next to the palace. The house was small, but Prince Izzy and Princess Chi-Chi were happy. They both knew that small things can be special too.
The end. And that's the end of our story time. For more bedtime stories, you can check on our YouTube playlist or listen to more storytime compilations at the Storyteller Fox. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.